Hi, welcome to Edge. We have with us Tim, Senior VP and General Manager, Veeam EMEA. Hi, Tim. Thank you so much for joining us today on Edge.
Hi, and thank you so much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
You know, Tim, you are the Senior Vice President, General Manager for Veeam. But before you got to Veeam, what was your journey like? Give us a little bit about your background and tell us some stories.
Yeah, happy to do so. I mean, obviously, I won't go through my whole bio because that will sit here forever and even tomorrow, and we don't want that, right? But yeah, actually, I've been more than 20 years in IT. Actually, funny that you're asking that because in the past, when someone introduced myself as I'm more than 20 years in IT, I always said, oh, that person must be old. So apparently now I'm old as well. But that's fine. I can cope with that. But it's been an interesting journey because when I started out in IT, I actually, it happened coincidentally. I really didn't know what to do. Only thing I knew is I love to do something around computers, so I applied for some internships. And that made me end up at Apple as a first station, way before the iPod came out and stuff like that. So beautiful times. And then it accelerated all the way through, my journey at Veeam, where I joined coming from Dell. So in between number of software vendors. But the key topic that was always there on why I'm sticking to this industry and why I think it's so interesting for me to be in is simply because you see the value it brings to everyday life of people and of companies. You see, you're coming from the original mobile phone to having an iPhone. That probably changed your life massively.
Yeah.
And likewise, the same for every organization. When in the past, every manufacturing stuff was, the most important piece to have the parts together. Now it's like data is the thing that's changing their everyday lives because with data, they're steering the business. With data, they're steering the results of their company. And it's always so interesting to see on how every customer, every company transforms with that. So I love to be part of this journey. And that had me end up in Veeam because it's exactly what we're doing. We're taking care of our customers' most valuable asset these days, which is data. And we're helping them to keep their business running. We're helping them to make their data secure and to keep it secure and to keep them away from threats. So that's kind of the journey and how I ended up here.
Let me go a step back. Apple before iPad, I think iPod, right? You said iPod.
And iPad.
Right.
It's
iPad,
both as well.
both as well. But iPod, I think very few of us, it started with that shuffle, the small little thing.
Yes.
Then it moved to that other one where you had the circular kind of thing. Yeah. And then the touch. Yes. I think even today, a lot of people keep looking. I, for one, have been looking for the iPod Touch so that I can keep it as a collector's version. But I want to understand how was that journey because working in companies like these, which I don't think saw this kind of growth as they do see today. Apple was big even then, but the iPod kind of resurrected its journey as well for it.
Yeah,
right?
Apple was very close to being bankrupt back in the days, if you remember. And you can read up these stories on the web. But so that was completely different. And then it skyrocketed into this super launch, into this super growth phase. And then when I moved there, into Adobe times, it was kind of the same thing. Adobe was only known for people like, hey, you're doing this free Adobe Reader stuff, Acrobat Reader. How do you earn money? But what most people didn't see is that actually, with the likes of Photoshop and Premiere and what all their names were, it was such a big business. And then they moved into management of documents. And that was a big part of Adobe's journey. And then they moved into as a service, so everything that was skyrocket growth because the more popular it got that you have a device in your hand, the more popular it got that you want to do a lot of things on that device. So that makes you move into every direction as a company. And how can I serve my customers on these devices? And that's what fueled the growth over the years.
Right. And what were your learnings personally? Because, maybe you don't see it when you're in the place, but when you look in hindsight vision is always 20/20. And in hindsight, what do you feel were your learnings and what did you pick up from each of these companies that you bring to Veeam today?
Well, so one thing is always that there's always going to be change. And that was always. And it's not because companies want change, but sometimes change comes from society and on the way how things are perceived and the way how things are used. And that's probably the most thing that I've learned. Moving a company from a traditional box seller to an as a service seller was one thing. Then working everything in the cloud when I was at Salesforce, that was completely different. The first time I was at Salesforce, they had this logo like no software because people were used to install software. For Salesforce, you don't need it. It's just a web application. So that changed. So also that was there and it was unprecedented. And the third learning is just the speed of innovation that's around us. And we see that, especially in the Middle East, where you have tons of innovation happening every day. That's an amazing fact. And then, there's also a learning from the COVID times, because COVID accelerated a lot of this innovation. Who would have thought, right?
Yeah.
Because it stopped us in a lot of things that we do in everyday life, but same time it fuels such a lot of innovation. For example, in most of Central Europe, and I'm based in Germany, as you know, paying by card before COVID was like, you don't do that, you pay cash. So, after COVID, you could pay everywhere with a credit card, and the bakery even sends you a daily newsletter saying this is on offer for you. Right? so even that kind of what was perceived slow, that was a huge thing that was just coming from COVID and all these things that are happening around it. So I'd say the change and the speed of innovation, that's really the most amounts of change that I've seen.
Right.
Yeah.
But you did say that you were interested in computers. I'm going way back right now.
It is. Yeah.
What got you interested in computers? What was it? Did you see?
Do you really want to know?
Yes, I really want to know.
Because, I've been a little kid when I had my first computer. I think it was like 12 years of age. And the only thing that interested me was playing some computer games. Wow. Very old style, 2D, black and white stuff. Just... When you look back, my kids would probably ask, how on earth could you play this? So I don't even know today. And then, that gets you into, I need to put graphic cards in that this is working, and then the RAMs and, the hard disk and whatever. So I tried compiling my own computer. So I've kind of got this. But same time I was at school and I was learning that, I was doing A-levels and stuff. I did all that. I maybe didn't do great, but I got there. But then suddenly everything was over and I had to think, what do I want to do? And I really didn't know. So I thought about, what do I do in my free time? And then one thing was computers, computer games and all that stuff. So I just really instantly applied to a number of internships at IT companies, and that's how it ended up.
That's how we ended up.
Yeah, and then at Apple they asked me, do you know anything about the education business? That I've just been to school, so maybe that's close enough. I said, we need someone to help us with business development in education. So can you do that? So, okay. So that's how it worked. And then, once you're in IT and you get hooked by this business, and again, if you see all the great things that are coming out of that and the speed of innovation, it really got me hooked. So
it was the innovation that hooked you?
Yeah.
So was it the innovation at Veeam that hooked you too? Or was it?
Yes, absolutely. Well, it was so the Veeam part, and why I joined Veeam was actually a little bit different, because when you work for Dell, and I was working for the unstructured data solutions department, it's a very hot topic one, because everything that happens in this life around IT is working on unstructured data. Yeah. Think about, autonomous driving or biogenomics, all that stuff. That's all unstructured data that needs to be sorted and analyzed. So, and then Veeam came up and Veeam approached me, and at first I thought, it's backup. So is backup really that sexy? At first you think, probably not really. But then I started digging in and learning about this and watched a couple of videos online of people working for Veeam and of the CEO and stuff like that. And I learned that they're actually embarking on a journey, which was, by the way, more 3.5 years back. They're embarking on a journey of evaluating everything around security of the data. So it suddenly didn't become like, we only do backup and recovery, which is an important piece and still the core pillar, but everything around it, we help you keep your data secure. And the whole environment that they're working that out, and the speed of innovation for the products that they got, but also the companies they acquired, but also the products that we brought new to the market, that's been really interesting. So, that was the best interest for me, that we're getting this whole story told and not just one product and one track pony.
Right. It's interesting that you did not see it as something that would be sexy, but right now, obviously, you think it is so. So yes. What shifted other than the education process of, educating yourself about the company and the products and everything? What do you think was that hook at Veeam that got you through?
A couple of years back when you think about backup, no one wanted to pay for something like backup because it's like, we don't need it. I mean, our data is good, so don't worry. And then, the surge of ransomware and the ransomware attacks and the surge of IT attacks, also during the COVID times, that really spiked. So suddenly there was a super big interest in saying, okay, how can we keep our data secure? And at the same time, the amount of data is just, exorbitantly growing. And you see that, again, coming back to my Dell times, we've seen exabytes of growth in unstructured data every year across companies. So you have this amount of data. Same time, you have these spikes in attacks to companies. And this is what makes it sexy, if I may say that word again, because that has an interest for companies saying, okay, we see all these things, and now data is our most important asset, so we need to make it secure. And that helped it to move it like from the bottom shelf to like the top shelf. And every CIO, every customer I'm talking to, and every partner, they always say, that's actually a very valid point. We've all got tons of data. I mean, how can we make sure that we're keeping it free from attacks?
Yeah.
So now it's like, it's, if you can talk sexy about data, that's the sexiness that's coming in now. And I've seen that definitely coming up in the last years.
Right. Let me go a little further and focus on the region. Why this region? What do you think is different about the Middle East and Africa region or EMEA region? And what do you think is important for this region? How does Veeam bring in that edge?
Yeah,
no pun intended, but yeah.
I like that one. I will come back to the edge. So the point is, and if you look on all of the EMEA region that I'm having the opportunity to serve all our customers and partners and employees in there, every region is a bit different. But what Middle East differs from the others is typically in the more classic parts of Europe, like Germany, France, UK, whatever. It's been a lot of manufacturing countries. When you come to the Middle East, it's less of that manufacturing thing, but more of the new market, the online market, the e-market, the hyper-growth markets, everything data sensitive that's basically sitting in here. And on top of that, there's so many public entities, serving with a lot of data because the Middle East is by far more trying than every other country to bring online services to its people. So all of that is culminating together in a much bigger usage of data in a new way versus in the traditional way where you come from a lot of manufacturing and pharma and all of these things. They have a certain interest to do their things and protecting their environments, but here we have like all of these new businesses are coming up, and I think this differentiates, and that is why we're seeing such huge growth in these markets. But it's not only us as a company, it's like every competitor I'm talking to, it's the same. So we're seeing big growth in here. We're seeing a large speed of innovation. It's not only in Dubai. There's so many companies coming here and building up. When I go to the likes of Saudi, when I go to other Gulf states, it's amazing on what talent they're attracting from the outside world. And the talent they're attracting is typically in finding new ways to do business. And the new ways to do business always has to do with data. So it's a really hot market. If you would ask me what's the number one growth market in EMEA, it's definitely Middle East.
Right. You say it's the number one growth market, but growth also plateau. Do you see that coming soon, or do you see that there's a larger trajectory?
No, I think there's a larger trajectory. I can't even say of when there will be a plateau. I just don't see it coming because every time I come to the Middle East, and I typically come a couple of times for the year, every time this region changes, and it changes to the good, it changes to the future, and it changes to even new innovation and even higher speed. So I'll see this as an endless opportunity for customers to interact with us. I see there's an endless opportunity for us to interact with our customers. So I don't see that plateauing. That will keep on for a long time.
Right. Tim, I just want to understand when you talk about product, and we did touch upon COVID, but COVID is not only the life-changing event that has happened in the tech world. Tech world, I think, has seen a lot. Someone was once telling me about Y2K, which I'd completely forgotten about. There was Y2K, then there was the 2000.com bubble. Then there was the Lehman Brothers crisis, financial crisis. Then 2016. Before that, was there something? No. 2016, and then COVID, and now there's Gen AI, which is the hot new topic since 2022. How important is it for product to innovate with these, events? Because they are very big events. COVID was called a black swan event in a lot of ways, while the others are not exactly black swan events. But they were large events. They were quite pivotal events in that sense. So how important is it? And you did mention change has been the constant so far. How important is it?
So it's always important to always embed new technologies and even looking further ahead and trying how we can innovate ourselves and help our customers. But when I dump it down into the number one thing that the market is always looking for, customers looking for, is predictability. Wouldn't we all love to be able to predict what happens in the future? And sometimes we can't. No one would have known that COVID suddenly hits and breaks us down. But maybe even the financial piece and the financial crisis and stuff like that, part of that can be foreseen and part of that can be handled differently. And likewise, it goes for every IT event that we're currently having. So wouldn't it be great if you know ahead of time that you're very likely to be attacked? So that's the AI piece. So scanning the network, finding out anomalies, scanning your data to see if, if something happens, your data is even backupable in the end, and you can retrieve it. These are all things, and that happens with AI. So we are working towards a path of implementing all these AI tools, of predictability tools, of making use of the knowledge that can be found within all the data and parameters that is out there in the IT market. That's something that we are definitely looking into. So that will bring a lot of change, not only to us, but the whole industry.
Right. What are the key trends you see in the space and in the sector? If you were to take the region as a whole, what are the key trends you see?
In the total business sector?
Yeah.
So trends that I currently see is, number one is cloud still. Second thing, and that's related to it, is how can I make sure it's secure? That's another trend. And the third thing is, how do I work with my data in the future? And how can I monetize upon the data? So that's really three key trends that I'm seeing from our part of the business where we are. And that monetization effect, is super important, because data can be the new oil.
Yeah.
And if you exploit it right, there's a lot of money you can make out of it. Part of that is done already with advertisements, with targeted mailings, stuff like that. But I don't think that's really the end. So customers and partners coming to us and asking, how can we make sure to be even monetized beyond that?
Right.
After we're saying it's secure. So that will be probably a big thing coming up. And the second piece is that, and I've seen it already, it's not only for the future predictive, but I've seen it on the rise a couple of months or maybe a year ago, is we've been starting to protect development environments or developer environments around Kubernetes. In the past, no one has asked for, how do I protect that? Now it's like, why should we only protect the end state when the development state is so important? Because there's so much knowledge in this development of trying things out, we need to make sure that this is safe and secure as well. And we can help with that. So that's a big thing. And I think that's coming up further and further, because so far, and you know that from your private life, you're only saving on things that you're done. It's a final letter, you save it, and it's good. Did you ever think about saving, all the steps it took you to get this letter done? Probably you didn't, but probably in the future that can be even more interesting, looking into the variant stages, because there can be saving time, they can be more efficient and all that stuff. So,
yeah,
and that's coming back to the topic of predictability, as I just said.
Yeah. What are your plans for the region?
Well, so we're investing heavily. Currently, we're investing into the region, not only into our sales headcount, because we definitely see an ask for a customer who wants to have a direct touch with our people. We're investing in there, but we're also offering services. We just recently added a number of heads around our technical account managers. So in other words, is those people that are going to the customers and helping on the tech side, not only with the implementation, but to keep it running and to also plug it into more databases and stuff. So that's really helping us a lot, and that's the investments that we're doing. But that's not only for ourselves, we're only investing heavily into a partner network. So we're building out alliances plans. We've had alliances covered up with not only HPE, but also Lenovo, with Sophos, with Scality and others, so that we can bring the whole story to our customer, not just one product, and talk the whole data and security story. And we're investing into the channel with our Veeam cloud service providers to offer services to the customers, and with our Veeam accredited service partners as well, so that they can deliver professional services to our customers. So we're doing all this, so it's really a broad piece of investment that we're putting into this region, really absolutely done to the demand.
Great. My last question for you.
Okay.
Tim.
Always.
Where do you see this growth of AI going to impact data and data protection? Because there is a lot of talk about how it impacts data and data protection.
The fast answer would be huge impact. The bit longer answer is, did we all know on how AI would hit us in daily life a couple of years ago? Do we know on how much it impacts us now in daily life? Yes. So I think there's just endless amounts of things that can happen. They can happen in saving customers' times, in making sure the time is used wisely, in making sure the interaction is needed is as little as possible, but just good enough so that you can run it perfectly. So these things will come, and there will also be an automation effect, of course, saying, I don't need to work it up from scratch on how to do things best, but based on best practices from other companies, from other data, from other sources that we have, the software itself can help it set up correctly for future needs and future demands. So I think there will be a lot of AI. Part of that we will feel in everyday life. Part of that will be just done, and you will miraculously wonder where it's coming from.
Great. Miraculously wonder where it's coming from. On that note, thank you so much, Tim. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.